So you want to buy into the top-of-the-line Fujifilm X system cameras, but you don't want to break the bank, then you're in the right place. Today we're going to explore two fantastic options, the Fujifilm X-T3 and X-T4. These two cameras offer incredible features and might just be the right fit for your creative endeavors. The big question is, should you go with the older, a bit more budget-friendly Fujifilm X-T3, or should you go to the upgraded Fujifilm X-T5? Let's break it down. First things first, let's talk about what these two cameras have in common. Both the X-T3 and X-T4 share the same buttons and dials for an enjoyable and easy experience changing your ISO, shutter speed and exposure. Both cameras are weather sealed, which can be a real game changer in mixed conditions. And both of these cameras share the same sensor, which is a 26 megapixel sensor. Though the X-T4 used to have better autofocus, but the X-T3 actually got updated, so now they have the same autofocus capabilities. Additionally, they both have a base ISO of 160 and have the ability to shoot 4K video in 60p. Let's delve into the differences, which hopefully will sway your opinion one way or the other. The X-T4 has a greatly improved battery life. You can get through an entire day of shooting, mostly with just one battery. That's about 3 to 4 hours of camera on shooting, I would say. Unfortunately for the X-T3, you usually need to take a couple more batteries to get through the day. The X-T4 also outshines the X-T3 with its new in-body image stabilization, which the X-T3 just didn't have, which is great for handheld shooting, especially in rather dark conditions. Then another difference which people actually have mixed opinions on, because from the X-T3 to the X-T4 they changed the screen. On the X-T3 they used to have a three-way tilting screen, and now they actually have a fully articulating, like the flippy screen. That's not really an improvement, it's not really a downgrade. People just prefer different screens and you just have to know for yourself which one you like better. Another difference with the X-T4 and X-T3 is that they added a switch between photo and video mode on the X-T4, which is very handy if you shoot both of them quite frequently. You don't have to change your settings, you can just flip the switch and you're in video or in photo mode. Then there's another small change which will probably not sway your opinion one way or the other, but they added two new film simulations, classic, negative and breach bypass. The first one I actually use frequently, it's one of my favorite film simulations. The other one, not so much. That's something new with the X-T4. Then lastly, I honestly wasn't really sure if I should put that in similarities or differences, because the dimensions and weight of the cameras, they're very similar, though the X-T4 is slightly bigger footprint and is also slightly heavier, and that's basically due to the bigger battery and also the in-body image stabilization. Now let's get to one of the most important questions people consider when buying a new camera, which is obviously the cost of the camera. If you want to buy the Fujifilm X-T4 in an excellent condition, you will pay around 1,350 euros, and in a good condition, obviously both used, it's about 1,200 euros. In turn, the X-T3, unfortunately I couldn't find any offers for an excellent condition, but if you want to buy it in a good condition, you will pay around 900 euros. So that's about a difference of 300 euros comparing the same quality, the good condition. When it comes to use cases, the Fujifilm X-T4 actually aims to cater to a broader audience, photographers and videographers, because of the flippy screen that you can use to record yourself, just like I'm doing right now, and also the switch between photo and video mode, which is just a bit easier and just a little bit less of a hassle. The X-T3 is more aimed towards photographers in my opinion, instead of also adding videographers because of that three-way tilting screen. But honestly, other than that, they can shoot the same video, so if the flippy screen is not something you need, that doesn't really make any big difference. So the question is, when should you opt for the X-T3 or the X-T4? You should probably choose the Fujifilm X-T3 if you're primarily into landscape photography, where you shoot most of your images on a tripod anyway, as you just don't need in-body image stabilization for that. Also, if you want to save a little bit of money, the 300 euro difference can be quite a lot actually, and maybe you can add that towards a quality lens. I think you should opt for the Fujifilm X-T4 if you both shoot a lot of video and photo, because that switch between photo and video mode is quite useful instead of having to change all your settings all the time. Also, the new in-body image stabilization is quite useful for both actually. If you shoot static video handheld, the in-body image image stabilization is a real game changer. And if you shoot a lot of photography, especially in dark conditions with lenses that don't have any stabilization, the in-body image stabilization can make or break the chance to take an image or not. Now to the flippy screen, if you vlog or shoot a lot of self-video, just like I'm doing right now, it can be a real game changer because you don't always have to check the video after you shot something. You can just check it out yourself while you're shooting it, and I can see if I'm off center or not, if I'm in focus or not, and that's just a bit too much of a hassle on a three-way tilting screen. Also though, for travel and street photography, I really enjoy the flippy screen because I can just flip it shut and use my camera just like I would use an old film camera. Not that I've ever done that, but I really enjoy the experience of not seeing the images except if I later flip the screen open and check them out. So I'm using the dials on top of my camera and the aperture ring on the lens to change all my settings, and I'm not really looking at the screen because it's closed, and I'm just shooting away, and for me at least that's a way more enjoyable experience. And then lastly, you should probably go for the X-T4 if you really hate changing your batteries, but I also don't think that's something that will sway a lot of people's opinions one way or the other. So as I've mentioned a couple of times, I went with the Fujifilm X-T4 that I'm also filming on right now, and that was honestly just down to me finding a good deal for that camera with the 16 to 80mm f4 standard zoom lens, not anything else really. But I'm very happy with my choice with the X-T4, and actually quite lucky because about 2.5 years ago when I bought this camera, I didn't know I was going to do a lot of videos. I thought it was only for photography, and now I have the camera with the flippy screen, which is way easier for me to shoot video with. Other than that, I don't really use all the improvements of the Fujifilm X-T4 in comparison to the X-T3. Mostly the in-body image stabilization I don't use that much, or I don't really need that much, because the greater part of my photography is landscape and woodland photography, and that is all on my tripod basically. Other than that, I shoot travel and street photography, but most of the time I shoot those in bright conditions, so there's not really any need for in-body image stabilization. But occasionally I will go out in darker conditions, and therefore it's great, but it's not something I definitely need. You might consider comparing the new models, so check out this video where I compare the Fujifilm X-T4 and its successor, the Fujifilm X-T5.